A ship's captain out at sea notices smoke on the horizon. He orders the ship to head towards the smoke. As the ship gets closer to the source of the smoke, the captain can see through his binoculars a deserted island with 3 huts and a man waving his arms to be rescued. The ship sends a small boat to the island, which returns with the man grateful for being rescued. The captain meets with this man to ask if there are any other people on the island. The man says that it's just been him alone on the island for the last 2 years, and every day he prayed to be rescued. The captain was a bit puzzled as to why there were 3 huts on the island if the man was alone, so he asked about the 3 huts. "Well," says the man, "that first hut is my home. It's where I lived the last 2 years. That second hut, that's my church. I went there every day to pray. That third hut, well, that's the church I used to go to." President Biden was awakened at 4 a.m. by the telephone. "Sorry to bother you at this hour, sir, but there is an emergency. I've just received word that the Durex factory in Washington has burned to the ground. It is estimated that the entire USA supply of condoms will be used up by the end of the week." Biden: "Oh no. The economy will never be able to cope with all those unwanted babies. We'll be ruined. We'll have to ship condoms in from Mexico." Telephone voice says, "Bad idea. The Mexicans will have a field day with this one. We'll be a laughingstock. What about Canada?" Biden: "All right, I'll call Justin and tell him we need 5 million condoms, 10 inches long and 3 inches wide. That way, they'll continue to respect us as Americans." 3 days later, a delighted President Biden ran out to open the first of the 10,000 boxes that had just arrived. He found it full of condoms, 10 inches long and 3 inches wide, exactly as requested, all colored with red maple leaves and in small writing saying "Made in Canada, size small." A policeman, an archer, and a soldier are on an airplane losing altitude. The pilot yells to these passengers, "We're carrying too much weight. Drop whatever you've got." The policeman drops his pistol, the archer drops his bow and arrow, and the soldier drops a grenade out of the hatch door. The plane still crashes, and all 3 passengers wake up in different locations. In search for help, they each start making their way through the woods they are now lost in. The policeman stumbles upon a little girl crying over the body of an adult man. He asks the girl, "What happened here?" To which the little girl replies, "I was walking with my daddy and a gun fell out of the sky and hit his head." The archer comes across someone crying over a body as well, a young boy. The archer says, "Oh my gosh, what happened?" The boy tells the archer, "We were playing hide and seek and I found him with an arrow in his head." The soldier pushes through the brush and finds a young boy laughing hysterically, standing in front of a cabin with a giant hole in the wall. The soldier asks the little boy, "Whoa, what did I miss?" The little boy says between laughing fits, "You wouldn't believe the fart I just ripped." A plumber hobbles down the road in a cast and meets a friend. "How did you break your leg?" asked the friend. "It's like this," he replied. This guy had promised his wife that he would fix the sink plumbing on a particular day. That day, he realized he would need to stay late at work, so he called me. I stopped by the man's office for the house key and went to work. When the wife got home, she saw my bottom half protruding from the sink cabinet. She assumed it was her husband and proceeded to remove my trousers and give me some intimate attention. Then the phone rang and the woman left to answer it. When she returned, she angrily said, "That was my husband on the phone. Who are you?" I was startled, so when I got up to reply, I bumped my head and was knocked out. The woman pulled me out and must have fastened my trousers and called an ambulance. When the medics were carrying me out, they asked what had taken place. When I told them, they laughed so hard that they dropped me. That's when I broke my leg. There was a woman who married a man who never thought of anyone other than himself. His favorite thing to do was to complain about his wife to anyone who would hear. One day he went out with a mule and started complaining about his wife to the mule. The mule was so annoyed by his complaining that it beat the man to death. At the funeral, the rest of the village lined up to speak to the woman. She would nod her head to all the men that spoke to her and shake her head no to all the women. Afterwards, the priest spoke to her. "Why did you shake your head yes to the men and no to the women?" She replied, "The men all gave their condolences, so I nodded my head yes to thank them politely. The women all asked if the mule was for sale." As Jack was marrying Jill, his father gave him some advice. "Son, when I got married to your mother, the first thing I did when we got home was strip her naked, take off my pants. Then I gave them to your mother and told her to try them on, which she did. They were huge on her, and she said that she couldn't wear them because they were too large. I said to her, 'Of course they are too big for you. I wear the pants in this family, and I always will.' Ever since that day, son, we have never had a single problem." Jack took his dad's advice and did the same thing to his wife on his wedding night. Then Jill took off her panties and gave them to Jack. "Try these on," she said. Jack went along with it and tried them on, but they were far too small. "What's the point of this? I can't get into your panties," said Jack. "Exactly," Jill replied. "And if you don't change your attitude, you never will." An 88-year-old woman was interviewed by the local news after getting married for the 4th time. The interviewer asked her questions about her life, about what it felt like to be marrying again at 80, and then about her new husband's occupation. "He's a funeral director," she answered. "Interesting," the newsman thought. He then asked her if she wouldn't mind telling him a little about her first 3 husbands and what they did for a living. She told him she'd first married a banker when she was in her early 20s, then a circus ringmaster in her 40s, later on a preacher in her 60s, and now in her 80s, a funeral director. The interviewer looked at her quite astonished and asked why she had married 4 men with such diverse careers. She smiled and explained, "I married 1 for the money, 2 for the show, 3 to get ready, and 4 to go." An attorney arrived home late after a very tough day trying to get a stay of execution. His last-minute plea for clemency to the governor had failed, and he was feeling worn out and depressed. As soon as he walked through the door at home, his wife started on him about, "What time of night to be getting home is this? Where have you been? Dinner is cold and I'm not reheating it." And on and on and on. Too shattered to play his usual role in this familiar ritual, he poured himself a shot of whiskey and headed off for a long, hot soak in the tub, pursued by the predictable, sarcastic remarks as he dragged himself up the stairs. While he was in the bath, the phone rang. The wife answered and was told that her husband's client, James Wright, had been granted a stay of execution after all. Wright would not be hanged tonight. Finally realizing what a terrible day he must have had, she decided to go upstairs and give him the good news. As she opened the bathroom door, she was greeted by the sight of her husband, bent over naked, drying his legs and feet. "They're not hanging Wright tonight," she said. He whirled around and screamed, "For the love of God, woman, don't you ever stop?" Once there was a British family that was touring the USA. They were driving on the highway and saw a sign for a stop. So the mother pulls down the road to a rather peculiar place and stops when they find themselves on a peculiar-looking pad. A man walks out of the building and explains, "Ma'am, this is a weigh station. We use this facility to check to see if the trucks are carrying too much in their cargo for it to be safe to transport. The rest stop is a mile up from here. You can't miss it." The lady thanks the man for his instructions, and she drives off. Then, a family of tourists from Africa comes along and makes the same mistake. The weigh station man comes out and explains the station is for the trucks and bids them a good day, albeit a bit annoyed. It's the second time today this has happened and things are back to normal again. Finally, some American tourists from the next state over drive up to the plate. An astonished-looking man comes hurriedly down the walkway to the vehicle, his face a bit pale. "What's the matter?" asks the dad in the driver's seat. "I don't know how," the manager huffs, "but you're over the weight limit." A truck driver was transporting 100 penguins from Melbourne to Perth when he broke down in the middle of the desert. A mechanic takes a look and tells the truckie that the repair will take at least 2 days. He knows that the penguins won't survive in the heat for that long, so he flags down a passing truck and offers the driver $5,000 to take the penguins to the Perth Zoo for him. A few days later, the repairs are done and the truckie finally pulls into Perth. He is shocked to see the truck driver walking down the street with all of the penguins walking behind him. He jumps out of his truck and yells, "Hey mate, what are you doing? I paid you $5,000 to take these penguins to the zoo." The truckie replies, "I did take them to the zoo, but I had some money left over, so now I'm taking them to see a movie." A woman awakes during the night to find that her husband is not in bed. She puts on her robe and goes downstairs to look for him. She finds him sitting at the kitchen table with a hot cup of coffee in front of him. He appears to be in deep thought, just staring at the wall. She watches as he wipes a tear from his eye and takes a sip of his coffee. "What's the matter, dear?" she whispers as she steps into the room. "Why are you down here at this time of night?" The husband looks up from his coffee. "It's the 20th anniversary of the day we met." She can't believe he has remembered, and starts to tear up. The husband continues, "Do you remember 20 years ago when we started dating? I was 18 and you were only 16, he says solemnly. Once again, the wife is touched to tears. "Yes, I do," she replies. The husband pauses. The words were not coming easily. "Do you remember when your father caught us in the back seat of my car?" "Yes, I remember," said the wife, lowering herself into the chair beside him. The husband continued. "Do you remember when he shoved the shotgun in my face and said, 'Either you marry my daughter, or I will send you to jail for 20 years? "I remember that too," she replied softly. He wiped another tear from his cheek and said, "I would have gotten out today." A man has been drinking all day at a local bar and checks his watch. 1:30 a.m. Rats. I need to go home now or my wife's going to kill me, he thinks to himself. But as he's trying to get up, he falls awkwardly on the floor. I'm just way too drunk right now. I need to sober up. So he asks the bartender for a coffee, he drinks it up, and 30 minutes later he tries to stand up, but again, he falls to the floor, this time even harder. At this point, he realizes he needs to get home no matter what, so he starts crawling towards his house. After 40 minutes, he gets there, lays down next to his sleeping wife, and passes out. The next morning, his wife wakes him up and starts shouting at him. "So, how was last night, huh? Was it fun drinking all day?" The man is certain his wife was asleep when he got home, so he tries to play it cool. "Not really, just hanging with some coworkers. We didn't drink much. Just a couple of beers." His wife starts nodding sarcastically and responds, "The bar owner called. You left your wheelchair there." A television crew comes to the farm to make an interview with the shepherd about his daily routine. "Our viewers would like to know what a regular day here in the countryside looks like. Can you start right from the beginning?" asks the reporter. "Oh yeah, sure," starts the shepherd. "So first I wake up, but I really don't wanna, so I take a sip of my brandy to start off my day. Then I have to go out to release the sheep. I'm still quite sleepy, so I take 2 sips to make me go outside, and 1 more to have energy to open the gate. Out in the field, I usually meet my pal, and we drink 2 whole bottles of brandy together, and then—" "Oh, I'm sorry," interrupts the reporter. "We cannot really air that. Children are watching, and we don't want to make a bad impression. How about every time you drink, you say you read a book instead?" "Yeah, that makes sense," says the shepherd and starts over. "Well, the first thing in the morning, I wake up and read a page of my book. Then I go outside and read 2 more pages plus 1 more while opening the gate for the sheep. While out in the field, I usually meet my buddy and we read 2 books together. Then we return home while reading page after page and lock the sheep in the barn. Finally, at the end of the day, we go to town where my friend has a library and we read till the morning. 2 old married couples are driving to dinner. The 2 old wives are sitting in the back seat, and the 2 old husbands are sitting in the front seat. 2 old married couples are driving to dinner. The 2 old wives are sitting in the back seat, and the 2 old husbands are sitting in the front seat. "Where are we going for dinner?" Frank asks Harry. "I forget," Harry says. It's what's the name of the flower? The red one?" A carnation?" Frank guesses. No, Harry says. "The one with thorns." "Oh, a rose," Frank says. "Yes, that's it," Harry says. Then he looks over his shoulder at his wife in the back seat. "Rose, what's the name of the place we're going for dinner?" A woman was shaking out a rug on the balcony of her 17th-floor condominium when a sudden gust of wind blew her over the railing. "Damn, that was stupid," she thought as she fell. "What a way to die." As she passed the 14th floor, a man standing at his railing caught her in his arms. While she looked at him in disbelieving gratitude, he asked, "Do you suck?" "No," she shrieked, aghast. So he dropped her. As she passed the 12th floor, another man reached out and caught her. "Do you screw?" he asked. "Of course not!" she exclaimed before she could stop herself. He dropped her too. The poor woman prayed to God for one more chance. As luck would have it, she was caught a 3rd time by a man on the 8th floor. "I suck! I screw!" she screamed in panic. "Slut!" he said and dropped her. Dropped. A golfer playing in Ireland hooked his drive into the woods. Looking for his ball, he found a little leprechaun flat on his back, a big bump on his head, and the golfer's ball beside him. Horrified, the golfer got his water bottle from the cart and poured it over the little guy, reviving him. "Arrgh! What happened?" the leprechaun asked. "I'm afraid I hit you with my golf ball," the golfer says. "Oh, I see. Well, you got old Patty here fair and square. You get 3 wishes, so what do you want?" "Thank God you're all right," the golfer answers in relief. "I don't want anything. I'm just glad you're okay, and I apologize." And then he just walks off. "Wow, what a nice guy," the leprechaun says to himself. "I have to do something for him. I'll give him the 3 things I would want: a great golf game, all the money he ever needs, and a fantastic love life." A year goes by, and the golfer is back. On the same hole, he again hits a bad drive into the woods, and the leprechaun is there waiting for him. "It was me that made you hit the ball here," the little guy says. "I just want to ask you, how's your golf game?" "My game is fantastic," the golfer answers. "I'm an internationally famous golfer now." He adds, "By the way, it's good to see you're all right." "Oh, I'm fine now, thank ye. I did that for your golf game, you know. And tell me, how's your money situation?" "Why, it's just wonderful," the golfer says cheerfully. "When I need cash, I just reach in my pocket and pull out $100 bills I didn't even know were there." "I did that for you also. And tell me, how's your love life?" The golfer blushes, turns his head away in embarrassment, and says shyly, "It's okay." Come on now," urged the leprechaun. "I'm just wanting to know if I did a good job here. How many times a week do you do the deed?" Blushing even more, the golfer looks around, then whispers, "Once, sometimes twice a week." "What?" responds the leprechaun in shock. "That's all? Only once or twice a week?" "Well," says the golfer, "I figure that's not bad for a Catholic priest in a small parish." Dave and Jim were a couple of drinking buddies who worked as aircraft mechanics in Melbourne, Australia. One day the airport was fogged in and they were stuck in the hangar with nothing to do. Dave said, "Man, I wish we had something to drink." Jim says, "Me too. You know, I've heard you can drink jet fuel and get a buzz. You want to try it?" So they pour themselves a couple of glasses of high-octane booze and get completely smashed. The next morning, Dave wakes up and is surprised at how good he feels. In fact, he feels great. No hangover, no bad side effects, nothing. Then the phone rings. It's Jim. Jim says, "Hey, how do you feel this morning?" Dave says, "I feel great. How about you?" Jim says, "I feel great too. You don't have a hangover?" Dave says, "No, that jet fuel is great stuff. No hangover, nothing. We ought to do this more often." "Yeah, well, there's just one thing." "What's that?" "Have you farted yet?" "No." "Well, don't, 'cause I'm in New Zealand." A man is out drinking with his friend and he gets quite drunk and vomits down the front of his shirt. He exclaims, "Oh no, my wife will divorce me for sure." His friend asks why. He says, "She's been on at me for my drinking and she told me if I come home drunk once more she would divorce me." His friend thinks for a moment and then says, "I have an idea. Put $20 in your breast pocket, and if she asks where the vomit came from, say, 'A random man vomited on you and was terribly sorry, so he gave you the $20 to pay for the dry cleaning.'" The man thought this was a brilliant idea and cleaned himself up a little before he headed home. When he got home, his wife was waiting for him, and as soon as he had fumbled his way into the house, she shouted, "That's it! You're drunk! I am leaving!" He said, "No, my dear, you misunderstand. Some man vomited on me." He pulls the $20 from his breast pocket and says, "He was terribly embarrassed, so he gave me this $20 to pay for the dry cleaning." She seemed mollified and then asked, "What is the other $20 for?" To which he replied, "Oh, that is from the man that shat in my pants." So there are these two rich old men who live next to each other. At the border of their land is a pool that conjoins the two luxurious estates. In this pool, each man has a pet dolphin. Every day, the two old men stand at the edge of the pool and argue about whose dolphin is the smartest. This has gone on for years. Then one day the first neighbor says, "Let's settle this once and for all." So the two men begin to devise a test to determine which dolphin is the smartest. They spare no expense. There are obstacle courses, memory tests, decoding puzzles, hoops to jump through, the whole 9 yards. As the day of the test comes closer, the first neighbor starts to get nervous. He thinks to himself, "What if my dolphin loses? I would be humiliated." So he decides to drug his neighbor's dolphin. The day of the test arrives, and of course the first neighbor wins with flying colors. He gloats about his victory for months, but after a while he begins to feel guilty. So he tells his neighbor, "Hey neighbor, I have to come clean. I cheated on the dolphin test. I drugged your dolphin. We don't really know whose dolphin is the smartest." His neighbor looks at him and says, "You know, that really defeated the purpose." A policeman is driving past a roadside apple stand when he notices the sign, "Apple seeds, guaranteed to make you smarter, $20 per seed." He pulls over and informs the vendor that it is fraud and false advertising to make absurd claims like this. "No, no, no," the vendor tells the cop. "My apples are a special variety, a scientific miracle. Buy just one seed, eat it, and you will notice an increase in intelligence. If not, I promise to refund your $20. "All right," says the cop. "But if this doesn't work, I'm shutting your operation down." He hands over a $20 bill, takes the seed, chews it up, and waits for it to kick in. After a few moments, he says, "You know, even if you're not lying, I could have bought a whole bag of your apples and had enough seeds to last me months." "Ah, yes," says the vendor. "It's working already." A policeman goes home to his wife in the evening after work. Exhausted, he enters the dark bedroom and strips out of his uniform, leaving it on the floor. He looks for the light switch but figures his wife is lying in bed and decides not to disturb her. Just before he's about to get into bed, his wife speaks. "Honey, Can you run down to the corner shop and buy bread so I can make breakfast for the kids tomorrow? Fine, but you should have mentioned earlier, says the husband while putting the uniform on again. He runs down to the shop, gets the bread, and exchanges small talk with the guy at the counter. New job? Asks the cashier. Nah. Why do you ask? I could have sworn you were a policeman, but that's definitely a fireman's uniform. There are usually 100 hens on a farm, and only one rooster. After all, the rooster is just meant for mating and useless apart from that. One day, the farmer decided that the current rooster is getting old and bought a new, younger rooster in. The old rooster, upon seeing the new, younger rooster, got angry. "What are you doing here? This is my turf," he said to the younger rooster. The younger rooster replied, "I know how the farmer thinks. You are old, and I'm here to help and eventually take your place. Why don't you just give up and go to the corner of the field and rest?" Visibly enraged now, wings flapping, the older rooster retorted that he'd sooner be turned into a stew than retire without a fight. "I challenge you to a race, 10 laps around the field. If I lose, I'll do as you say and stay away till the end of my life. However, if I win, you are to leave this field and never return." The younger rooster smirked and said, "You are just going to embarrass yourself in front of the ladies, old chicken. Fine, you are on. In fact, I'll give you a 20-yard start." So the race got underway, and the young rooster can be seen chasing the old rooster round the field on the first lap. On the second lap, bang! The farmer shot the young rooster dead. "Darn it! Why are all the new roosters I bought, including the 2 previously, only interested in chasing and mating with the old rooster?" A farmer had to leave the farm for the day, and a guy was coming to inseminate a cow. The farmer goes to his less-than-brilliant son and tells him the man is coming to inseminate a cow. The boy looks at him bewildered and says, "I'll never remember which one, Pa. There are too many." So the farmer drives a nail in the wall behind the cow's stanchion. A couple of hours later, the man comes and asks the boy to show him which cow. The boy walks behind the cows, running his hand down the wall. He comes to the nail and exclaims, "It's this one! I can tell by the nail." The man asks him what the nail is for, and the boy answers, "I guess it's to hang your pants on." A little boy named Timothy goes to a birthday party with his father. When he arrives, the hostess asks him, "How are you, Timmy?" Timothy replies, "I'm good." "I think you have the wrong word there," the host chuckles, wanting to correct his grammar. Whatever," Timothy shrugs. Later, he runs into his grammar teacher. "How has your homework been going?" his teacher asks. "It's gone well," Timothy replies. "That's the wrong conjugation," his teacher points out. Whatever," Timothy says again. After a while, he finds his dad talking to another parent and wanders up to them. "Hello, Tim. Have you done well in soccer?" the parent greets. "I've done good," Timothy nods. "Timothy," his father says sternly, "you know what word you should be using." Whatever," Timothy laughs, walking off. His father sighs. "Sorry about that. Timothy's a little rebellious, but he means well." 4 rabbis had a tradition of spending a day each week golfing and discussing theology between holes. Very often they would argue, with 3 of them taking one side and eventually arguing the 4th one down. One day, though, the 4th rabbi simply would not budge on his point. He swore he was right, and that the other 3 were misguided. Exasperated by the stubbornness of the others, he fell to his knees. "Oh, Lord, give me a sign to show that I am right and that these other 3 are wrong." Just as he finished, 4 storm clouds blew in over the golf course. 3 all merged into a single larger cloud, but the 4th blasted through the larger cloud, dissipating it. As smug as the fourth rabbi was, the other three insisted that this was nothing that couldn't be explained by natural phenomena, and that he was still wrong. Again, he fell to his knees. "Oh, Lord, please give another sign to show that I am right on this." As he was finishing his prayer, a single storm cloud blew in and sent a fork of lightning down on 4 trees standing on a nearby hill. 3 of the trees were destroyed, and the 4th remained intact. Again, though, the 3 rabbis argued that it was a hot summer day and the occasional freak lightning storm didn't signify anything. "Oh, Lord," he began again before being cut off by a billowing voice from the clouds. "He's right," the voice boomed. One of the 3 rabbis simply shrugged at this. "All right, so now it's 3-2.